Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Nashville Predators and whether or not they should trade their starting goaltender, Juuse Saros. Interesting spot for the Nashville Predators right now because the Predators they're in an awkward stage. They're in a state of transition where it's one of those things where you want to see the young guys come up and start to take over and be the long-term future of this team, but there's also the concern, well, what you think is, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Obviously, that's a statement we've probably all heard at some point in our lives. And I think that the Predators fans are a little bit scared. They're like, no, we're not making this trade. But today we're going to take a look at Juuse Saros, why they shouldn't trade him, and if they do decide to trade him, well, what teams would be interested? Because I do think numerous teams would be interested, especially with the numbers he's put up over the last couple of years. So let's get into it. So Juuse Saros is 27 years old, and his current contract is really nice. And that's probably part of the reason I think Predators fans don't want to trade him. His current deal, he's got 3 more years on this deal, including this year. So after this season, he has another 2 full seasons in Nashville, and that will take him right till he's 30 years old. Now, the good thing is they have some duration on the deal. So if they do decide to trade him, there is going to be a little bit of stability and structure for a team bringing him in. The problem is, though, because he's not a rental, it might be harder for other teams to actually bring him in. Now, when you look at the last 3 years, really his entire career, but the last 3 years, because that's close enough, right? The last 3 years, he had a .927 save percentage in the 21 season. Last year, he had a .918 save percentage and a .920 save percentage already this season. So his numbers are it's like gaudy, like really, really good. The average save percentage in the NHL this season is I think last time I checked, it was like .908. So when you look at .927, .918, .920, .914, .915, .925, .923, he hasn't had a sub-par 900 since an .870 where he had 1 game in Nashville, and that was his first ever game with the Nashville Predators in the 15-16 season. That's how far back we have to go where he was that bad. So Juuse Saros has just done everything that the Predators have asked of him. So why would they trade him? Well, there's this little fella that's playing, and he's another young European goaltender. This little fella in their prospect system that might draw a little bit of attention at some point. He's 20 years old, and his name is Yaroslav Askarov. Now, if you guys don't know the story with Askarov, he's a Russian goaltender, currently playing over in the KHL. Oh, excuse me. He's playing in North America. He is playing in the NHL. He already played a game in the NHL, but he has spent pretty much the entirety of the season in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Admirals, played 28 games, and his numbers have not been that great. But this also reminds me of a similar goaltender that was a Capitals prospect that ended up going to Toronto this year in Ilya Samsonov. Now, the story with Samsonov was when he came to North America, he struggled in Hershey in the AHL. Didn't play that well. He ended up going up to the Capitals and similar numbers, okay, but not great. And now he's gone to Toronto and played quite well for the Capitals, to the point where he will probably get an extension. For the Leafs, he'll probably get an extension in Toronto. So when you look at Askarov, you could be saying the same thing, right? It's the adjustment to North America, just everything involved with coming to North America, learning the language, just being used to the culture and everything else surrounding, let alone the actual hockey on the ice. There's a lot involved. So I'm not that concerned with his numbers this year. And his numbers in general have not been that bad. His numbers in Russia and the KHL have all been 939, 913. sub 800 for some games, but again, they were international tournaments where he only played one game, so it's hard to go off of one game. So when you look at overall what he's capable of, this is a very good goaltender that I think the Predators see long term as their guy. And he's still very young at 20 years old, and that's why I think that they should honestly not trade Juuse Saros. Because if you're going for the full rebuild, fine, then trade him. And then when Askarov is called upon, then have him called up. But don't rush Askarov. He's 20 years old. Goaltenders take longer to develop, just like defensemen. Defensemen, a lot of the good defensemen don't come up till they're 23, 24 years old. Ask Victor Hedman. Owen Power, first overall pick last year. He didn't even play all of last season in the NHL. He played at the University of Michigan. So a lot of these guys that are higher end draft picks, you always have to you have to find the fine line between, are they continuing to develop and grow, and also not stunting their growth and finding that even balance, right? And I think that with Juuse Saros and Askarov, we should be more asking the question, how long is it going to take for Askarov to become ready, right? And I think that you're still looking at another probably 2 years of Askarov in the AHL. Maybe at the very least one more, right? One more season next year. But if the Predators are kind of doing a retool on the fly and maybe want to bottom out this year and next year, well, then maybe it does make sense to trade out Saros. But then again, it kind of goes against what they did this summer, bringing in Ryan McDonough and trying to get back to the playoffs. So I think the Predators are in a weird spot here. David Poile has he's going to have his hands full here over the next couple of weeks with trade calls and stuff like that, because I think there's going to be a lot of attention to Juuse Saros. With that said, what teams would be interested? I think the Pittsburgh Penguins are a team to be in the mix. I know the Leafs have already been rumored to potentially go after Juuse Saros and make that big splash acquisition in between the pipes. And he would definitely be an upgrade over Samsonov and, I forgot his name, Matt Murray. But with that said, Juuse Saros is going to get some attention. Even the LA Kings, the Nashville Predators have made trades with the Kings recently. Maybe they end up being a team that's in the mix there. The Florida Panthers. If the Panthers see themselves maybe making the playoffs, they don't like Bob and Spencer Knight right now. Maybe they end up making that move, right? So there's a couple things that the Nashville Predators have to consider here before they make this kind of move. But honestly, I would say no. I would say no to trading Juuse Saros because, like I said, what's always on the other side isn't always greener, and I think that that's something you have to be careful here. It puts a lot more pressure on Askarov if you trade out Saros, because everybody's thinking about, well, what's the next thing coming in, right? And the second that they trade out Juuse Saros, what are the Predators going to do this summer? Immediately look for a goaltender in free agency and potentially overpay for exactly what they just traded away in Juuse Saros. It doesn't make sense. And some teams might be hesitant to sign with the Predators, right, next season, considering, they trade out Juuse Saros, they could be trading out Ekholm or McDonough. I don't know if I want to be there long term, right? And that's kind of, you have to look at it that way as well. So you have Juuse Saros, you have what you're looking for, keep him. Now, with that said, if I'm David Poile, I'm saying to every team that calls about Juuse Saros, give us an offer we cannot refuse. And until that happens, this Juuse Saros trade rumor stuff will be quiet. Unless the Leafs are throwing in the guys that they are rumored to not be wanting to throw out. Their first round pick, Matthew Nyes. Unless those guys are in the equation, it's not happening. It's just not. And same thing for Florida. And the problem with Florida is they're kind of running into the problem where they don't really have a ton of assets. Now, LA, on the other hand, kind of like the Rangers, and I don't think the Rangers will be going after Saros, but I think the LA Kings definitely are a team to watch. They've got a ton of assets, a ton of prospects, a ton of draft picks. They're one of those teams that could be really sneaky at this year's deadline, especially with their goalie situation. And Juuse Saros kind of filling that void for a couple of years. That's perfect for them. It's really going to be interesting to see if LA throws out an offer. Like a first-round pick, one of those young guys like Turcotte, or one of those young defensemen like a Mikey Anderson, or dare I even say a Brandt Clark, one of those guys. If those are the offers that you start to get from a team like LA or Toronto from Matthew Knies in a first or something like that, then you start to consider trading Juuse Saros. But I honestly don't see that happening. I don't. Unless LA is really desperate and really wants to make the playoffs this year, I don't think they'll do it. And I think the Leafs have been pretty adamant about not trading Matthew Knies or their first-round pick this year. I think they'll be limiting themselves to what they can do. With all of that said, though, let me know what you guys think. In the comment section down below, what do you guys think of the Nashville Predators potentially trading away their starting goaltender, Juuse Saros? Do you think it's a good fit if he goes to LA or Toronto? What do you think the price could be? Or do you not even want to discuss this? Do you think they should just keep Juuse Saros for the next 2 years, run out his contract, let Askarov come in when he's ready over the next 3 years, and kind of let things take its course over that time? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.